In the hinterlands of Queensland, Australia, there is a scar on the earth. For 20 years, the Mount Rawdon mine was a place of noise and extraction, a colossal pit that surrendered 600,000 ounces of gold. It generated hundreds of millions of dollars. It kept the region fed. But today, the excavators are silent. The gold is gone. And now, the plan is to do something that defies all industrial logic. Instead of walking away, they're going to pour $4 billion into this hole. They aren't digging anything out. They're going to flood it. The plan is to turn this hollow mountain into a massive artificial heart, a machine made of water and rock designed to save Australia's energy grid. But there's a catch. To bring this machine to life, they need water, a lot of it, and in a region where every drop dictates the difference between a harvest and a famine, taking that water might be the spark that burns the local economy to the ground. Why would anyone flood a gold mine, and why are the locals terrified that this $6 billion project is a disaster waiting to happen? To understand the mine, you have to look at the sky. They call Queensland the Sunshine State, and it is not a marketing slogan. With 300 clear days a year and winds that tear across the horizon, this land is a renewable energy gold mine. By mid-2024, the state had installed over 10 gigawatts of solar and wind capacity. But nature is a fickle business partner. The sun creates massive surges of power at noon, right when demand is low. Then the sun sets, the wind dies, and the grid crashes. In 2016, South Australia learned this the hard way. A storm severed transmission lines, wind farms tripped offline, and the entire state went black. It was a wake-up call. You can generate all the power you want, but if you can't store it, civilization blinks out. That is why engineers turned their eyes back to the empty pit at Mount Rawdon. They don't see a mine anymore. They see a battery. The project is called pumped hydro, and the physics are deceptively simple. The old mine pit, plunging 328 feet into the earth, will become the lower reservoir. High above, on a nearby ridge almost 1,000 feet up, engineers will dam a valley to create an upper reservoir. Connecting them will be a labyrinth of tunnels drilled through solid rock, housing massive turbines. It operates on a loop. When the sun is blazing and electricity is cheap, giant pumps push water up the mountain. It sits there holding potential energy. When the sun sets and the grid strains, they open the gates. Gravity takes over. The water rushes down, spins the turbines, and delivers 2 gigawatts of power, enough for 2 million homes. It sounds perfect, a closed loop, a perpetual energy machine. But in engineering, there is no such thing as a free lunch. The system needs a jumpstart. To fill that lower reservoir for the first time, Evolution Mining needs 847 million cubic feet of water. That number might sound abstract to you, but to the farmers of the Burnett region, it sounds like a death sentence. The water has to come from somewhere, specifically the Paradise Dam on the Burnett River. This river is the bloodline of an agricultural empire. Sugarcane, macadamia, avocados. Every cubic foot is accounted for. The project developers argue that the withdrawal is less than 1% of the river's flow. They promise it's a one-time cost, but the farmers know better. They know that in Queensland heat, water evaporates. The closed loop leaks. It will need constant top-ups. And then there's the Paradise Dam itself. It is a structure on life support, recently slashed to 60% capacity due to structural concerns. The farmers have spent years operating on a razor's edge. Now they're watching an energy giant prepare to drink from their shrinking cup.
It isn't just about the quantity of water, it's about the quality. Remember, this is a gold mine. The rock walls of the pit are laced with minerals, salts, and heavy metals. When you introduce water to that environment, you create a chemical stew. The engineers have designed the system to keep this tainted water contained, but containment is a fragile concept. Queensland is prone to torrential rains. If the upper reservoir overflows or if the emergency spillways are triggered, that mine water has to go somewhere. The locals fear it will surge into the environment, carrying a toxic legacy into their soil, and history suggests their fear is not paranoia, it is precedent. If you want to know what happens when pumped hydro goes wrong, you have to look at the Tom Sauk plant in Missouri. December 14, 2005, a moonless night. The Tom Sauk plant was pumping water to its upper reservoir, a massive ring of earth and concrete atop a mountain. It was supposed to be fully automated. Sensors were supposed to cut the pumps before the water breached the wall. But the sensors were stuck. The computer thought the tank was empty, while in reality the water was cresting the rim. At 5:12 a.m., the wall disintegrated. 1 billion gallons of water were unleashed in seconds. It stripped the forest down to the bedrock, snapping trees like matchsticks and carving a canyon where none existed. It was a miracle that no one died, but the lesson was etched into the landscape. Even the most advanced batteries can turn into bombs. The risks are high, but the world is desperate for storage. The struggle to turn old industrial sites into batteries isn't unique to Australia. In Germany, the industrial heartland of the Ruhr is honeycombed with abandoned coal mines. Engineers dreamed of turning these deep shafts into underground hydro plants. The erratic geometry of the tunnels and the corrosive, briny water made the costs astronomical. The project died on the drawing board. In Okinawa, Japan, they tried using the ultimate reservoir, the Pacific Ocean. The Yanbaru project pumped seawater up a cliffside. Technically, it worked perfectly, but the economics didn't. Maintaining salt waterproof equipment cost more than the electricity was worth. It was dismantled in 2016. If water is too dangerous or too expensive, what's left? In Finland, a company called Polar Night Energy is betting on something much simpler: sand. They heat tons of sand in insulated silos to 600 degrees Celsius. It doesn't leak, it doesn't evaporate, and it can hold heat for months. In China and Switzerland, Energy Vault is building gravity batteries that don't use water at all. They use massive 35-ton blocks of concrete. Motors lift the blocks to store energy, and gravity drops them to generate it. No dams, no floods. But back in Queensland, they are sticking with water. The Mount Rawdon project is moving ahead. Construction is slated for 2027. By the early 2030s, that silent gold mine will roar back to life, not as a source of metal, but as a guardian of the power grid. For the engineers, it is a triumph of repurposing. For the climate, it is a necessary step toward a renewable future. But for the farmers watching the water levels in the Paradise Dam, the project remains a looming shadow. They are waiting for the day the pumps turn on, hoping that this massive machine saves the state without destroying the land that feeds it.